Korejma here, welcome back to my channel. Today in the video review for a book, Traditional Wicca by Thorn, Mooney. Traditional Wicca, A Seeker's Guide. This book is another of the books, or this author is another of authors about whom I'm writing for our quarterly book Femme Occulte, so check it out below my video and let me now just briefly tell my Czech subscribers what's going on here in this video. Ahoj, tady Korejmách, dnes tedy přednáším o Traditional Wicca knize od Thorn Mooney, o tradiční vice, a kdybyste si chtěli o této knize a o této autorce přečíst něco v češtině, tak najdete informace v naší nové Femme Occulte a o ní zjistíte všechno tady dole pod videem. Okay, so let's jump into this review. I must say that I had to groan to this book. I just had to kind of get a little bit more experience in my life to get into it and to find it interesting and want to read it. I was thinking to purchase it already when it was released, which was in a year, I'm not sure at the moment, in the year 2018, so 2 years ago. But in that moment I wasn't really considering Wicca for my life, so I skipped it. And then I purchased it even though I was sure that I'm not going to become a traditional Wiccan. I purchased it because I was thinking, okay, this is something new, but it's on traditional Wicca. And you can't really find a comprehensive guide through Wicca nowadays. Everything is kind of eclectic and aesthetic witchcraft and other stuff that you might know from the internet that is available to everybody, but some work on traditional Wicca that would be up to date, I was kind of missing it, and I was thinking, yeah, it should be in my bookshelf anyway, even though I'm not a Wiccan. And then it took me another few months before I actually grabbed the book and started reading it. It was based on the circumstances that I've decided that I would like to write an article for Femme Occulte on being a priestess and what does it mean and what does it bring to your life and what does it take back. And at that moment I kind of felt that it would be a good idea to read a book which is written by an author who's a priestess in some traditional system, some hierarchical system. And I was really happy that I did so, because it's not only a seeker's guide, I think it's absolutely amazing book for anyone who is considering traditional Wicca for their path, and also for anyone who wants to stay eclectic witch but still wants to really know what is traditional Wicca about without all that rubbish. Excuse me for that word, it's not always rubbish, but with all that extra mud and dust that is covering it because of the nowadays media. Also, though, it's a great book for somebody who is practicing for several years and is thinking of, for example, starting a coven, even the eclectic one, or do anything that is connected to priesthood, anything that would be a step in your life when you start calling yourself priest or priestess. I think this book can really help you with that kind of step in your life. It was definitely beneficial for me in this kind of way. Okay, I wrote plenty of notes on the list of contents, as always, as I always do. It's getting bigger and bigger. But before I start with that, I will actually start here with the quote on the very cover, and it says, "This book is the quintessential guide for the true, sincere seeker." It's a quote by Raymond Buckland, the author of Buckland's complete book of witchcraft. And in Czech it's called Big Blue, in case that some of my Czech viewers are watching this in English as well. And so this book is indeed quintessential. it will not tell you anything from the theory, like how to create a circle, or which candles and in which order are supposed to be lit, or what to put on your altar and how to create a spell. No, this is about what is traditional Wicca actually about, and what is it making different from all the other types of nowadays witchcraft. And it is great. It's also quintessential because it is talking about 5 essential things in traditional Wicca, and these are the coven, initiation, lineage, hierarchy, and experience. So the author is discussing all these here in the book, which is absolutely great and amazing. You will find here definitely some information that you didn't know about Wicca before, even though you've maybe read some old books on Wicca, like books by Ronald Hutton, or books by Gerald Gardner, or books by Farrars, and so on. Anyway, I wrote down here that it's great for not only the seeker but also for researchers and academic workers. I would definitely recommend it to them as well. And in general, it has a really good way of explanation. It is very simple, interesting, and often there's some repeating some of the important parts, so you will not miss anything. And all that maybe dry theory on traditional Wicca that might seem dry from the outside point of view is really nicely refreshed by different examples on High Priestess Glinda and her Flying Cats Wicca. And there are also notes from another people from traditional covens and other practitioners on different stage or different level of initiation and so on. So that's quite interesting as well. Yeah, well, author talks a little bit, for example, on her YouTube channel that she's actually creating as well, about traditional Wicca kind of against of aesthetic witchcraft, but in the same time she understands that there are all these other muddy or dusty types of Wicca as well, those that are covered with some misunderstandings and the information that you can't really grasp if you are not a part of some kind of coven or some lineage where you would be able to experience it through. But she, I believe, doesn't really hate all these other kinds of witchcraft. She just feels pity for all those misunderstandings and for the labels that is sometimes bringing to traditional Wicca, I guess. So here it's really nicely explained what is actual traditional Wicca and what it is not. I would also myself say something like a metaphor about fast and slow fashion. I was thinking about it in these terms, and nowadays witchcraft is very easy to have, very easy to learn, very easy to read and find online or in books as well. And it is kind of like a fast fashion. You just grab the thing, you just wear it, and then you just change a little bit into some different chapter of spirituality. Once you are into tarot, another time you're into astrology, and you are a witch who's basically kind of floating through all these topics. While traditional Wicca, from my point of view, is more like a slow kind of fashion. It's something that is more tailored exactly for you, because of you have your personal teachers, and it is something that you will wear and you will experience, and you can't really share exactly the experience of how nice is the feeling of your own perfect clothes or your perfect cloak, and in comparison to all that fast fashion cloaks that you can just switch and you can go with the fashion and just be in, but still they will not be perfect, quite often. Even though you can find your way, you can find the pieces that will stay with you forever. But in comparison to that slow fashion, it is much higher risk that it will leave your life, and that it will not be worth it, or that you will just not need it anymore. While with traditional Wicca, you are just diving deep into something and you are experiencing it. You can't just read it from the books, you can't just quickly purchase it, but you have to wait when it's actually made exactly for you, or you have to help with building it, and it's much more handmade. In the same time, it's very elegant, and it must fit with everything else in your life. While witchcraft as a fast fashion, the witchcraft that is not initiatory, the witchcraft where you don't have to set yourself goals towards which you would really need to go to succeed, and you can just leave it and through it, it just doesn't have that part of the value of the teachings. So I hope that this metaphor that I was approaching it with is a little bit understandable for my viewers as well. Yeah, so as I was talking about it, here's plenty information on those 5 essential parts of Wicca, and it's about defining the traditional Wicca. It's the part 2 in this book. I have again plenty of notes here, but I will just mention a few of them, so this video doesn't get like completely huge size, but let me mention, for example, that the coven has its own unique egregor. You will not always have to fit right straight away to the first coven that you will approach, because of the egregor might be a little bit different than it's your life path and your energy, and the egregor is always changing when the new person comes to the coven, which is very lovely. Also, Mooney is writing here why is she sometimes, or actually quite often, pushed to actually say no to many seekers. It is because of these are small groups, and that you really have to be considered through a long process, and the teaching that is given to you and the experience that is given to you, it's very deep, and the work has to be really time consuming for yourself as well, and needs a loads of self-discipline and learning, and also some kind of respectful approach to both Wicca and the people who are practicing it through the traditional way. So it is really focused on that experience part that is given to you by your teachers. She's also discussing here the hierarchy quite a lot, and talking about that being a priestess doesn't mean to be bossy. Being a priestess, that means to be in service to your students, basically, and to the gods as well. And that's an approach that I really consider lovely and amazing. In the same time, she talks here about the problems that you might meet when you are searching for the coven. Exactly, that you might meet people who are telling you, I'm a priest or priestess and you will do as I will. And that's not a good approach. She's showing these red flags, as she calls it here as well, which is quite amazing. Then I would like to mention here from the end of the book that she's talking also about the 4 parts of the witch's pyramid: to know, to dare, to will, and to be silent. And she is putting it in a really nice way, because usually we find it in books as a list of things that it means. To know means to read, to gain the wisdom, to get the knowledge, and so on. But here she is actually writing some kind of stories through which you can really understand what does it really mean. So you can feel it, not only read it and receive it through your rational brain, but you can also get some kind of a feeling of this part of the pyramid, which I really appreciate. And then there's amazing, quite extensive list of further readings. There are classic books that I mentioned the authors on the beginning of this video, but there's also fantasy and another books. Okay, so that's about this book. I would definitely recommend it to everyone who's into Wicca and wants to take it seriously. Even those who know that they don't want to practice in the coven, that they want to stay solitary, or that they want to work with eclectic coven where there's no hierarchy, this book can be really, really amazing and informative for them. And for the seekers, it's totally, of course, that they must need to have it. But also for anyone who is doing research on Wicca, who is doing research on nowadays witchcraft and its different versions, and basically everyone who wants to know what is the difference between traditional Wicca and the Wicca that we can find anytime, immediately online through Google search. So that would be my review on this book. I can definitely recommend it, and see you soon.